Hi there, my name is Ted Fullerton. I'm here with Deborah Palmer. A while back, she sponsored a presentation by Dr. Paul Gooch. He's done a lot of research on the history of the caucus system. So I came away from that presentation very impressed with several of the concepts, but one really struck me, and I think it could actually change the way we operate. First, I'm going to describe the problem that I think it solves. That what I learned in that presentation is that how do we have the common sense of the average citizen to keep a tight rein on the power of government so they don't get out of control. And we have all grown up, but for generations now, believing that because we can vote, by golly, we've got control of the situation, and those politicians, they answer to us. We're the boss, and then we'll throw the bums out if they don't do what we want. I think time and experience has shown it hasn't worked out that well. It really hasn't. We're too busy running our own lives to run the government, and we show up to vote every 2 years, but for most of us, that's about it. We hear sound bites, a few valiant souls like Deborah, and they alert us when there's something bad going on or something that should be going on, and they beg us to write letters and everything. But it's sporadic, and it doesn't have the momentum. And I really think that the legislators have kind of become immune to that. Okay, I think they've caught on to the idea that it's a rabid few bunch of active, loud people who will show up and protest sometimes, and they've kind of learned.
Did you just call me rabid few?
a few dedicated activists.
So what was the solution that Paul came up? So what did our founders say
Right.
we could do?
The big thing that I came away with is that they used to meet on a regular basis, and that's where the town hall kind of idea came from. They met every month or so, or on a regular basis, and really delved into and discussed the issues, and have the candidates come and talk to them directly. That starts to build some gravitas, some power that you can leverage with a politician. They will pay attention to that. They will pay attention to an organized group of voters who are paying attention and are going to vote in a block. And then you assemble groups of precincts like that. And it's as simple as meeting on a regular basis as a precinct. And it's so simple, it may not be taken seriously as a profound solution, but I think it is a profound solution.
So is the idea that neighborhoods would get together and meet once a month or twice every 2 months and discuss the voting record of their elected candidates?
Yes.
Or
and the specific legislation
coming up. Okay,
yeah.
So they're up on top of the issues at the time the issue is there.
Yes. Yeah.
Then when they show up to vote, they have some informed decision as to who they're voting for and what they've done in the past.
And they make better decisions at the voting booth.
They would make more informed decisions. Yeah, great idea. In a caucus system, they would want to impress the delegates who will be at these monthly meetings.
Yes.
In a primary system, if your state uses a primary system, then everyone in the room is a potential voter to get them on the ballot. So either way, I agree. I think they might be incentivized to show up and be held accountable. So I like this monthly meeting idea.
We can get organized on a precinct level. If you live in California, if you live in somewhere that has a primary system, you can start acting like a caucus. You can start caucusing.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Just neighborhood caucusing.
It could save the country for our children and grandchildren. So now, Deborah has got a fantastic presentation that explains the caucus system in a very systematic way. And then we'll come back and talk about some of the resources that we've put together and what you can do.
Caucus schmaucus. What's all the raucous? So the big question of the day is, what is the caucus system? That's what I want to talk about right now. And who came up with that word, caucus? Well, caucus is when neighborhoods get together and elect delegates from among their neighbors. They select delegates that they know will take the time to vet all the candidates from their party. Neighbors who just don't have the time to vet the candidates will select and vote for neighbors whom they trust to do that on their behalf. These people who run for delegate are your neighbor. They live in your neighborhood. Your kids play with their kids. You've borrowed sugar from them on occasion. You are Facebook friends with them, and you know how they think. These newly elected delegates will meet with the candidates via text, email, phone calls, lunch dates, office meetups, town halls, neighborhood meet and greets. After a month or so of this, these delegates from each neighborhood attend a convention where the candidates come to meet the delegates one last time and try to win their confidence and ultimately their vote. Whichever candidate receives the most votes from delegates at convention will appear on the ballot in November for the general election. Every political party will go through this same process to choose their candidate to appear on the ballot in November for the general election. Every political party will have a caucus meeting, elect delegates who will then vet each candidate in their party, attend their party convention, and cast a vote for the candidate they feel represents their party and neighbors. This is how a candidate from each party gets their name on the ballot for the general election in November. In this process, there is a strong connection between neighbor and elected delegate. Indeed, you can't escape them because they are your neighbor. There is also a strong connection between delegate and candidate. These candidates really want the vote of the delegates, so they make time for them. They share phone numbers, emails, and their time with the delegates. If, for example, me and my neighbor are upset about a particular vote cast by a senator, we need only contact our neighborhood delegate and ask them to reach out to this rogue senator and ask them why and express our thoughts about any particular issue. These senators will listen. They want to listen because next election, they need that delegate's vote. This connection is strong, personal, and continuous. This communication between neighbor, delegate, and senator should never stop. Not every state uses the caucus system. States who no longer use the caucus system to elect party candidates use the primary system. This system is much quicker. In the primary system, every citizen who is registered to vote will appear at the ballot box in the summer before an election and vote for whomever they think will be the best candidate and appear on behalf of their party. Whichever candidate receives the most votes will appear on the ballot in November for the general election. In the primary system, the candidates have no vested interest in getting to know their constituents. They need only have the most signs and advertisements. They get money for this from donations, mostly from large special interest groups and lobbyists. In this way, they can compete for the most votes from the general public. Constituents cannot call them, text them, have lunch with them, or attend meets and greets. They can, if they choose, look at the candidate's webpage and attend rallies where the candidate often repeats what's on their webpage and besmirch other candidates. There may be a televised debate with pre-chosen and screened questions. The constituents will not get to choose the questions or contact these candidates. There are states that have chosen to implement a hybrid of the caucus and the primary system. What this essentially does is make a mockery of the caucus meetings and convention. Since candidates don't really need to get to know their constituents, they can get their names on the ballot the same way they would in a primary system, with huge donations from special interest groups and lobbyists in exchange for allegiance and votes on their behalf. So there you have it, the caucus system versus the primary system. If you live in a state where the neighborhood caucus system has been abolished or altered out of recognition, you can still meet with your precinct boundaries, elect delegates, and work to keep your elected representatives aware of your stance. You can meet regularly to discuss elected officials' voting record and work to spread the word to your neighbors. In this manner, neighbors can stay informed about the integrity and voting records of elected representatives. So when they appear at the ballot box next term, they can make an informed decision based off of something more substantial than who has the most signs and populated rallies.
Deborah's website, Citizens for Constitutional Government, has a tab on there that says caucus.
What's the page? The web page is cforcg.com. It stands for Citizens for Constitutional Government.com. cforcg.com. And click the tab that says
Caucus, schmaucus.
Caucus.
We're also going to have we have a Facebook page called Precinct Captain America. So that'll be another place where you can go and get organized. And what we're trying to do is provide a central clearinghouse of issues. Like Deborah says, there's always urgent issues, but I feel like the survival of our republic is on the line this year.
We're at the precipice here.
We're at the precipice. And
so if you need ideas of things to talk about in your precinct meetings, we'll give you some discussion points. We're hoping this makes it easy for you to be able to meet in your neighborhoods and have discussion points and to know what your purpose is. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
cforcg.com.